What psychological trauma did those who witnessed what happened to Charlie Kirk experience, whether they're a close friend, a loved one, supporter, or internet viewer? First, my thoughts and prayers are with Charlie Kirk's friends, family, and loved ones. We will not be showing the part of the footage of what happened to him. Instead, we will be exploring the psychology and neuroscience of what happens to those eyewitnesses who observe tragic events. It was September 10th at Utah Valley University, and Charlie was doing his infamous open mic question and answer rally with his mostly student audience, challenging the audience to prove him wrong, debating topics ranging from religion.
So why do you care so much about other individuals living their lives? Why is it affecting you?
Well, I could throw that right back at you. Why do you care so much about what I have to say?
To politics.
When I first saw this ad, I thought it was like an improv comedy thing. It looked so ridiculous that I didn't even think it was real.
To sports.
LeBron or Jordan, greatest of all time?
Yeah, Jordan, not even close.
For real?
100%. I could prove it.
Break it down.
How many finals has LeBron lost?
He's done these conservative Q&A rallies on other college campuses countless other times.
How we doing, Washington State? How we doing, Michigan State?
However, this one was very different from the start.
On our way in, we had drone footage of the crowd building. Charlie had it on his phone. I said, Charlie, I don't like this place. There are too many buildings. Charlie just kind of brushed it off.
Wow, look at that.
Beautiful.
Look at that.
So we get there, we pray, we get out of the car.
This is Frank Turek, one of Charlie's closest friends and religious advisors, who was there with Charlie that day and then on the drive to the hospital. He will be recounting what sadly happened, taking us through the events of that terrible day.
There's a whole bunch of TPUSA leaders there that want to pose for pictures.
3, 2, 1, smile.
Charlie graciously poses for pictures.
Thank you. Hi, guys.
This was Charlie's first rally he's done of the new school year. His Prove Me Wrong Q&A debates gained a lot of attention on social media over the summer months.
Who are you?
Well, important enough for you to come up to a microphone. You said, well, I'm worried about some laws Congress should pass. I've asked, what laws are you talking about? Can you be specific?
I'm sorry, I'm very nervous.
So you can shut up, baby. You just hate America and you love abortions.
This is the Old West, right? The Holy Spirit brought me here to challenge you to a gentleman's fist fight right here in front of this whole crowd.
So students and others in the community were now eagerly awaiting Charlie's arrival on their campus.
Freedom on 3. 1, 2, 3, freedom!
Okay, guys, we're back. Did you miss us? Because we missed you.
Resulting in over 3,000 people attending.
We registered for tickets, but they weren't even looking for tickets. Anyone could just walk in.
He thought it was worth the risk. Sure, he could have brought it inside, but when it's inside, you're not going to get as big a crowd as outside, and you're not going to be able to attract people walking by. And Charlie wanted to reach out to the world.
Charlie Kirk! Charlie Kirk! Charlie Kirk! Charlie Kirk! Charlie Kirk!
We head right into the base of the amphitheater. Charlie's like, welcome to the big leagues. I mean, there are just people everywhere.
Charlie Kirk! Charlie Kirk!
I've never seen a crowd so enthusiastic to see Charlie. So Charlie starts flipping these hats. You know, he's got the Make America Great Again hats, the 47 hats. And so I'm just kind of standing there and someone on staff just hands me a row of hats. So I go, I guess I get to flip them too. So I'm flipping them all over the place. And people are just excited. They're chanting, USA, USA.
USA! USA!
They just love Charlie.
That's a lot of people, Utah, I'll tell you what.
You know how it works. Question and answer. Also, thank you to Lane from Y Refi. That was great. Really appreciate it. And we're going to be here for a couple hours.
Get comfortable.
Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day. And he is Lord and God over all.
Next question. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
I hear this pop. It sounded like it was close. And out of the corner of my eye, I see Charlie go back. And so I start to head toward Charlie. and I see that the security guys are already there. So then I duck thinking, okay, maybe there's other shots coming. I'm still on the phone. My daughter-in-law told me these were the first words out of my mouth. No, 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 no. So
I froze. I actually didn't get down. He actually pushed me down and said, get down, get down.
Some eyewitnesses at the event described physically freezing, and if you notice, others in the crowd also froze for a second. Do you know why? Yes, this is a classic freeze response. When we are in shock from a sudden or unexpected traumatic event, our bodies may freeze because we don't immediately know what to do in that new, unexpected, and uncertain situation. Evolutionarily, this response helped us stay still to process what was happening and to possibly avoid being detected in a potentially dangerous situation before deciding whether we should either fight or run. A common misconception is that everyone responds to trauma the exact same way, that everyone will duck or run for cover. But why do you think we all don't act the same way in the midst of a tragic event? Yes, it's because there's a lot of variation in all of us due to differences in how our nervous system is physically wired, prior experiences, and our individual stress responses. Our amygdala in our brain, which scans for threats, can trigger a surge of signals through our autonomic nervous system. Past trauma, temperament, genetics, and experience, whether law enforcement, military, healthcare, all influence pathways getting activated in that split second. Sometimes conspiracy theories are built on the idea that if someone froze, they must have known something or were in on it. In reality, the freeze response is an automatic survival reaction for many in some situations, and is often a non-conscious choice. Therefore, people who don't duck or run aren't usually complicit in the act. Instead, they're experiencing a natural hardwired nervous system response to an overwhelming shock. Also, while we're on the topic, I think we've all noticed some overanalyzing of some body movements of people at the Charlie Kirk event that day.
Then I start FaceTiming my son and my daughter-in-law while Charlie sits down and begins to ask questions. Now, this is where you may have seen an internet conspiracy, the man in the white hat.
Did you notice the gesture made by the man in the white baseball cap?
Did you notice the gesture made by the man in the white cap?
The man behind him kept constantly adjusting his white hat. No one realized he might have been signaling the attacker.
Speculating that maybe this was a massively coordinated attack, where they were all signaling the exact time to strike.
Was giving signals to the shooter. Yeah, the man in the white hat was me. I did this with my hat. Maybe I touched my nose or something while I'm holding my phone because I'm FaceTiming my son and daughter-in-law.
Why do you think some people speculate about this stuff right after the event? Yeah, it's sometimes a way to try and make sense of something so senseless.
They thought Dan, his main security guy, was giving signals too.
America over the last 10 years.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
Signals for what? You don't need signals. There's a sniper up there. He doesn't need anyone to signal anything. He can look through his scope and see what's going on. What do you think? He's looking through his scope and going, what's the signal? What am I... It's crazy.
Those theories are classic examples of what's called apophenia. This is possibly seeing patterns where maybe none exist, and combined with hindsight bias, where once the outcome is known, people look back and assume there were obvious signs. Adding confirmation bias to that, and people end up cherry-picking idiosyncratic movements within a crowd to fit the narrative they already believe. In reality, those movements could be just idiosyncrasies in the crowd that you don't normally notice in crowds because nothing tragic has happened to draw that level of scrutiny. We don't typically analyze crowd behavior when no significant event occurred.
When I finally meet my wife back in Phoenix, she goes, there are millions of people who think you were in conspiracy to kill Charlie. I'm like, what? That's crazy. You still have people saying, oh yeah, we need to check into this guy and this other guy too, the security guy.
Psychologically, when viewed through the lens of tragedy, perfectly ordinary gestures may feel loaded with meaning. Although I will admit that some things that are being told to us in this investigation aren't completely adding up.
It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. There is a squad car parked right by it. Remember how it was engraving bullets?
But maybe they will make more sense as more information becomes public.
I'm still in shock. The first second was, oh, someone's playing, a crass joke to try and ruin the event.
Part of me thought that it was some kind of fake skit blood squirt.
I just heard a big loud noise like a popper that you could buy on the 4th of July.
I think some people thought it was a firecracker.
But why? Our brain operates what's called in psychology as schemas. These are mental templates built for past experiences. They're cognitive frameworks that help us quickly interpret and respond to new information by comparing it to what we already know. For example, when you hear a loud bang on the 4th of July, your brain instantly pulls up the fireworks schema. Since virtually everyone in that audience did not have a schema for a political assassination, but they did have schemas for fireworks, firecrackers, pranks, and dramatic skits, their brains at least initially defaulted to those more familiar categories. Can you think of a time when your brain misread a situation at first because it didn't quite fit your expectations? Maybe it was sudden and new, or maybe it was just confusing? That's how schemas work. They're mental shortcuts that help us interpret the world quickly for our safety, but they aren't always accurate.
Charlie was kind to the students who disagreed with him. I mean, he would always say, hey, people who disagree, if you disagree, come to the front of the line.
All right, you guys know how it works. If you want to ask a question, we have a line forming here. If you disagree, you can go to the front of the line.
Close to being a fascist.
I'm such a bad fascist. I let the people who disagree in open mic to talk to me for 2 hours uninterrupted.
Okay.
I'm an awful fascist. Yeah, why don't you read the shirt off for everybody?
Oh, my shirt, everybody. My shirt says Charlie Kirk.
That's one thing I always looked up to him. He let anyone take the mic and ask him a question.
Do you have short hair and up teeth? You must be a...
Let's elevate our discussion above personal insults.
Do you have something up your ass or something?
I want to protect the rights of all human beings. I will pray for you this Holy Week. Thank you for your time.
Please don't ever pray for me.
It didn't set in immediately, just because we all dropped down together and we kind of all just looked at each other like, did that just happen? Like, is this real? There was like 5 to 10 seconds where I didn't know what happened. It took a couple seconds for us to kind of understand what was going on.
In the first 5 seconds, our brain with the hippocampus and higher cortices, specifically the prefrontal cortex with reasoning, tries to match the sensory data with the closest, least threatening explanation. And do you think our brain is quick to immediately jump to the worst case scenario? Actually, for a new dangerous situation like a political assassination? Not usually. Our brain typically resists updating its schema to something catastrophic until there's absolutely no other choice to explain what happened. This is why after an accident we might insist we're fine even when we might be seriously injured.
I was looking right at Charlie when the gun went off, so I saw it, which is a sight that I can unsee, and I don't think I will ever unsee.
The witnesses who were looking directly at Charlie when he was sadly struck mentioned that image is something they cannot unsee. Do you know why? Our brain doesn't store trauma like a normal memory that just fades into the past, but imprints it. Instead of being filed away as part of a complete story, the image often gets locked in raw and vividly, replaying in the mind as if it just happened. For those who saw it, especially in person, that single instant can become a mental snapshot, resurfacing in nightmares and flashbacks because the amygdala of our brain, which is the fear center, burns that moment into our memory with such intensity that the hippocampus has difficulty filing it away as part of the past. This is because in moments of extreme stress, our brain prioritizes survival over orderly memory storage. The amygdala floods the memory system with emotional intensity, while stress hormones like cortisol disrupt the hippocampus, the area of the brain that normally organizes experiences into a timeline, storing them as memories in the cortices. As a result of it not being stored that way in the brain, the memory is not tagged as being over. Therefore, it lingers in our brain as if it's still happening.
Hey, stop, folks! Stop! Around to the back, I pop the back gate open and I jump in the back. Then I grab the thing and close it. Just go, let's go. Justin is driving. Dan is up front with the GPS. Rick has got him. Rick's on my left. And Brian is there, and I'm coming over the back seat, and Charlie's laid out in front. And Charlie's so tall, we can't close the door. We drove 4 miles all the way to the hospital with the door open. To this day, I don't know how Brian stayed in the car because we're just go. We're trying to stop the bleeding. You saw it.
It was the most awful thing I've ever seen in my life. He shot him in the neck and went everywhere. And the worst part of it all was the liberals who were there were cheering.
I did see a select group of students who stood up and cheered after the fact, which was really sad to see.
You're kidding, man.
No.
Some people were excited
Some people were glad that this happened. I saw people smiling.
A gentleman 5, maybe 10 feet in front of me stood up, put his fist in the air and started chanting, USA, USA, USA. We drove straight up to our school where we had a clinical assessment. I felt sick to my stomach. I thought at any moment I could throw up.
Trauma doesn't just affect the mind, but it also floods the body. When we feel like we face sudden danger, stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol surge throughout our bloodstream. These chemicals prepare the body for fight or flight. But how do you think they impact your digestion? Yes, blood is pulled away from your stomach towards your larger muscles, digestion slows, and our stomach itself tightens like a fist. On top of that, the vagus nerve, which is the body's longest cranial nerve, running from the brain stem down the chest to the abdomen, and signals the gut to shut down and sometimes triggers nausea or vomiting. From an evolutionary perspective, this reaction makes sense. An empty stomach is less likely to slow you down with cramps if you need to fight aggressively or run away fast.
I was maybe 10 or 15 feet away when it happened. I was doing okay. And then I was putting my 5-year-old to bed, and she had me read her story about love. I just couldn't finish the story. I was thinking about Charlie's little girls, his wife.
This is a powerful example of survivor's guilt. It's the crushing awareness that his life continues, but Charlie's life sadly ended, and his family's world has been devastated. What makes survivor's guilt especially painful is that it often arrives later, as with eyewitnesses.
I was closer than any of the students, closer than maybe one security guard between him and I. And I heard the pop.
In the immediate moment, adrenaline and shock can numb emotions. But as the body calms and the mind begins to process, empathy and grief surface with full force. Though it's a natural response, it can spiral into depression or post-traumatic stress if left unaddressed. That's why it's important for anyone feeling like something is wrong after experiencing or observing an event like this to seek professional help.
He wanted to make peace with people who didn't agree with him. That's why he had the open mic.
Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement. Hey, don't touch it. Have a nice day. Let's have a conversation. I wish we could be here without having my hat thrown off and stuff, but what we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have reasonable disagreement where violence is not an option. I've been assaulted publicly, multiple death threats. When people stop talking, that's when you get violence. That's when civil war happens, because you start to think the other side is so evil and they lose their humanity.
How many of you kids here on campus, raise your hand, do you feel as if you're graded down if you come out as a Trump supporter or conservative? That is the cultural left that will use power to punish a student with their grades because they have different views. That's fascism. That is definitional fascism.
How are the guards?
That whole day, I just kept going, hugging him, saying, this is not your fault. I'm telling you, Megan, any one of those guys would have taken a bullet for Charlie. They loved him.
Charlie Kirk's bodyguards and security detail are also experiencing a unique psychological toll. They didn't see the sniper, likely because they may not have been looking for one, and now they may be left with an unbearable question looping in their minds. If I had only... Yeah, this is known in psychology as counterfactual thinking. Replaying the past in endless variations, imagining what you could have done differently. This mental loop is driven by the anterior cingulate cortex. It's the part of the brain responsible for error detection and monitoring mistakes. Normally, this system helps us learn from small slip-ups, but under the weight of such massive tragedy, it becomes a relentless loop in their brain. For those who dedicate their lives to protection, this isn't just the emotional pain of them losing a friend and client, but do you also think it feels like to them a violation of their professional identity? Right, many times their very sense of self is built around keeping others safe. So when something happens that they feel they could have prevented, it sadly strikes at the core of who they are and leaves them feeling like they failed their core identity. A devastating blow like this against their identity is incredibly difficult to recover from. You may have seen this depicted in the movie In the Line of Fire.
You know, it does make me wonder about Dallas, though. Do you really have the guts to take a bullet, Frank?
It's absolutely critical that Charlie's security detail gets professional help immediately. If they don't get help, it may gnaw at them where they may experience chronic anxiety, depression, substance use disorder, intrusive memories, and PTSD symptoms. For them, the trauma is at least twofold. You know why? Yeah, it's the horror of witnessing the event of their friend tragically dying in their arms, and the unbearable weight of believing that they could have prevented it and all of the people this tragically impacted.
How dangerous some of these events are. So I had kind of already thought of an escape plan. When it really happened, I definitely didn't do anything that I thought I was going to do.
And while he may have felt a little ashamed admitting that, that is actually extremely common in these situations. Most of us carry around imagined scripts of how we'd act in danger. Rushing people to safety, getting everyone around you to duck and cover, tackling the threat, or calmly taking control. But in reality, when chaos erupts, do you think most people follow that plan? Right, without extensive training and experience like those in the military and law enforcement have, stress hormones like adrenaline flood into our bloodstream, heart rate spikes, blood flow is redirected away from higher thinking areas of our brain towards muscles needed for quick action. It's similar to the scene in the classic 1950s sitcom I Love Lucy.
Hello, Dr. Harris. We're leaving for the hospital with Mrs. Ricardo now. Goodbye.
They practice everything perfectly, but as soon as the pressure is on,
This is it.
This is it! Adrenaline hijacks the prefrontal cortex and suddenly chaos takes over. Have you ever given a speech, you rehearsed it perfectly without hardly reading it? Then as soon as you're up on stage, you can't remember the speech and you resort to reading most of it? Yes, that's because stress hijacks the prefrontal cortex. And your body falls back on the most basic automatic behaviors it can access in the moment of high stress. Panic is the brain's way of prioritizing immediate survival over some abstract strategy.
Do not go looking for the video of Charlie Kirk. For the love of God, do not go look for that video. If you need to preserve your do not go look for that video.
Not everyone who saw what happened to Charlie Kirk was physically present that day, because possibly you and millions of others watched it online. And if you didn't watch it yet, I strongly recommend you don't look for it because it's not psychologically healthy to watch. And for many, just viewing it is enough to leave a psychological scar. This is called secondary trauma. But why do you think this happens? One reason is the mirror neuron system in our brain. When we see others in distress, these neurons fire as if we are going through the pain. With that type of graphic footage, the effect is magnified. This is why so many people have said, I just can't unsee it. Even though they weren't physically there, the brain encoded the scene in a way that makes it feel personal. In fact, research shows that repeatedly viewing of traumatic media can intensify symptoms of nightmares, hypervigilance, and avoidance, similar to those who were there in person.
They'll never be the same after today. And every person in attendance and many people who watched the video will never be the same after seeing something like that.
For everyone touched by the tragedy, family, friends, eyewitnesses, the security team, internet viewers, the psychological consequences don't end when the event is over. The trauma can echo for months, years, or even a lifetime. Some may sadly develop PTSD symptoms, flashbacks that make them relive the scene, nightmares that replay it, or hypervigilance where loud sounds feel like a new threat. Others might slip into avoidance behavior, steering clear of large crowds, or even political events because their nervous system screams that danger lives there.
I can't get out of my mind how traumatic this was for everyone there, people of all ages there, and they're going to have trauma for the rest of their lives experiencing this. For many people, this scar won't heal.
Beyond these personal struggles, trauma can erode something deeper, our basic worldview. We all move through life with core beliefs that the world is generally safe, that people are basically good, and that tomorrow will unfold in a predictable way. A traumatic event like this can sadly shatter those assumptions.
Especially something happening, in our backyard, in a place that we thought was safe.
Leaving eyewitnesses questioning safety, community, and even trust in humanity itself. No one comes away from these things unchanged. That's why it's so important for those who are impacted to seek professional help.
Rick starts praying out loud. I'm praying out loud. We're yelling, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. We're doing the best we can to navigate traffic. This is not a highway. We're on surface streets. And suddenly there's an ambulance coming toward us. There was conversation in the car. Should we stop?
UVU in Orem has had an active shooter at the Charlie Kirk event. We're getting several calls. We're trying to get more information.
418 copy. How many injured do we have?
Just one person.
No, just keep going. Just keep going. At one point, somebody says, let's get there in one piece because we're cutting through intersections. We're just beeping the horn. This is not a emergency vehicle. There's no lights. There's none of this. And I go, we got to start CPR. Charlie wasn't there. His eyes were fixed. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking past me right into eternity. He was with Jesus already. We were giving him CPR, but nothing was happening. He was gone. He was with Jesus, absent from the body, present with the Lord. That's where he was. Got to the hospital and just ran him right in through the emergency room.
Frank's story is so sad to hear and oddly relatable. I think we can all imagine rushing our friend to the hospital in our vehicle, praying to God he can be saved because of some freak tragedy. They all immediately basically grabbed Charlie by a limb, threw him in the back seat of the SUV, and sped away to the hospital with the back passenger side door open the whole way because Charlie couldn't fit into the back seat laying down. They were blaring the horn, flashing their lights, possibly blowing through traffic lights, speeding to the hospital while praying out loud.
The shot was catastrophic. So 20 or 30 minutes later, the surgeon came out and said he was dead.
He absolutely did not know he was shot, and psychologically he was unable to even register that anything catastrophic ever happened.
No agony. One moment Charlie was doing what he loved, arguing and debating on campus, fighting for the gospel. In front of a big crowd, and then he blinked. He blinked and saw his Savior in paradise. After Charlie's assassination, we didn't see violence. We didn't see rioting. We didn't see revolution. Instead, we saw what my husband always prayed he would see in this country. We saw revival. Past week, we saw people open a Bible for the first time in a decade. We saw people pray for the first time since they were children. We saw people go to a church service for the first time in their entire lives.
R.I.P. Charlie Kirk. Our thoughts and prayers are with his friends and family. We didn't talk about Charlie's wife, Erica, or his children in this video because it appears they were not actually there that day.
Mikey McCoy, 23 years old. He's calling the vice president. He's calling Erica. He's sending a plane to get Erica.
But nevertheless, the pain she is going through as now a widow, mother of 2 very young children, is unfathomably heartbreaking.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men, just like the one who took his life. On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him. And is what Charlie would do. The answer to hate is not hate. The answer we know from the gospel is love, and always love. Love for our enemies and love for those who persecute us.
And how his 2 young children will likely sadly not remember their father or have their father as they grow up is incredibly heartbreaking.
So we're here at Bill's Burgers in New York City, and right near this very table was the first time Dada met Mama, and it started as a job interview.
Charlie Kirk is a profound loss to our world. Now in the comments, what do you think is most difficult about losing Charlie Kirk? Let everyone know in the comments below. Subscribe for more. And if you want exclusive content and channel perks, you can hit that join button below because your support makes all of this possible. It's so sad because that's what Charlie was preaching for so long, is just talk. Don't use violence. There's no need for violence. Just talk. And it's so sad that that person chose violence instead of coming up to the microphone. See you next time.